Cheers guys, I hope that all of you are doing really well, and this is a little video that is inspired today. I watched several other bloggers, several other YouTubers, and one of them is Lane, and he made a little video today that made me reminisce on an experience that I had when I was 17. It's one of the last conversations that I had with my dad, and it was very good. It brought some thoughts to mind, so I'd like to share it with you. Now, I'm sharing it with you knowing that the kind of people that I attract that subscribe to my channel are generally kind, caring, compassionate, and empathetic people. You are the kinds of people that have gone through the dark night of the soul or are going through it, that have put other people's needs first, other people's priorities first, made themselves small, try to do the people pleasing, try to do the sacrificing, try to do the doormatting at your own expense, abandoning yourselves, betraying yourselves, and you realize that you are rare. You're not normal, you're not the exception. Most people are not like you. They're not that kind, they're not that empathetic, and you suffered greatly because of that lack of connection, because of that lack of reciprocity. And so when I share with you these empowerment strategies, these understandings, I am speaking to an audience that needs to hear that. I'm not speaking to an audience that is covering up all of their insecurities by a false, large, aggrandized ego and trying to take advantage of everybody else. That is simply not whom I expect to ever click on a video like this. Alright, so the conversation that I had with my dad was one where he asked me, would I prefer to be feared or would I prefer to be pitied? And almost without any hesitation, I told him I would prefer to be feared. I think it's better to be feared than to be pitied. And he told me that I was youthful and maximalistic and that the answer couldn't possibly be that simple. And I remember being quite offended at that at the time. But going back to it now, years later, and having given it a lot more thought and even right now watched a video on it, I have to say that my answer hasn't changed. You would prefer to be feared than to be pitied, and in any kind of relationship, friendship, family dynamic, and let me explain to you why, without you feeling like I'm trying to convert you here into some kind of authoritarian tyrant. That is not the case at all. So, you have probably gone through so many years of life where you have been constantly surprised by how people who at one point were very nice to your face, acted like they liked you, acted like they were your friends, sometimes were even family, then turned out to really be envious people. People who are very jealous of you, people who are triggered by your successes, and it happens over and over again where you feel like you have people in your corner, you have people in your back, and either they can benefit in a very direct way from your victories, because by elevating yourself, you elevate them immediately as well, or they will tell you that they're happy for you when you have these victories, but in reality, they will feel resentful. And it was interesting, Lane said actually I thought it was the case just for me, but it seems like it's the case for absolutely everybody. We all encounter this dynamic, and it goes back to the tribal days where there was inevitably a hierarchy, where some people were less dispensable than other people. They were more essential to the survival of the tribe. And so if somebody elevated themselves on that hierarchy, then that meant that somebody who previously occupied that spot had just become more dispensable and was more likely to be sacrificed and overlooked and less likely to survive and to have their children survive in the larger scheme of things. And so people have that in them where they want you to do well. They have some vague positive ownership, association, empathy that they take with you. They don't want to see you struggle and wallow and grieve, but at the same time, they don't want you to do too well. The second that you start doing as well as them or better than them, they are no longer happy. They start getting insecure. And you're lucky if you have 2-3 people in your life that are the exception to that, because it's a parent, because it's your child, because it's somebody that truly you live like one being, heart and heart, soul and soul, and you have gone through so much together that this isn't a matter of that needs to be questioned on any level. But most people, even within your family, even your best friends, are simply not like that. And what happens when inevitably, and you have had these situations, I know, they come up where these people get to choose. Do they betray you, whether it's in a small way or in a significant way, in order to gain something from it and in order to elevate their status? Or do they stick by you and do they keep elevating you, even if they feel like on a certain level it's at the expense of their ego, of their ambitions, of their selfishness, and almost always, because of the way that our society is, almost always that person will choose to betray you. And that is where the idea comes in of be feared rather than being pitied. Being pitied in certain circumstances, I can understand how it is the only survival strategy that certain people can adopt. They can aggrandize themselves as victims at the same time while supporting the egos and elevating others whom have the right kind of strengths in order to be the leaders in that society, and they cannot confront them. But generally, you want to be feared without becoming a tyrant, without becoming a villain, because if you are feared, then that person whom I guarantee you would otherwise neglect your interests and would otherwise betray you would stop for a second and would think twice and would want to think 3 times about whether they want to cross you and make an enemy out of you. Because while you are the nicest person in the world, while they are being a friend to you, if they cross you, that's going to be gone. You're not just going to overlook, you're not just going to forgive, you're not just going to pretend that nothing happened. And it doesn't mean that you're immature and you're emotionally unstable and that you're one of these people who feels the need to chase everybody who has ever wronged them and to punish them and to stick it to them. That is not a sign of strength. Strong people don't do that. Strong people pick their battles and they know when to move on. But that you're strong enough that if somebody that you previously really cared for then opposes your interests, tries to aggrandize their interests at the expense of yours, even betraying you, then you will not hesitate. You will rally, and they will not know what is facing them. They will not recognize this nice person, this sweet, kind person, which is now nowhere to be found. And that will put the brakes on them, because what they see is power. What they see is potential. What they see are repercussions, and that is what you want them to see. And in your personal romantic relationships, there is a similar kind of dynamic where a person can fall in love with you in 2 ways and can come to have very strong, very passionate feelings for you in 2 ways. And one of these ways, believe it or not, is to actually see you as somebody beneath them, to actually see you as somebody that is a little bit less than them. But they still have these intense feelings for you because they've come accustomed to you as a primary source through which they can idealize themselves, through which they can bring themselves to feel good about their self-image, about their aggrandizement, about who they are. They like looking at themselves through your eyes. And that's a similar kind of dynamic where I pity you, I give you breadcrumbs, I know that I am better than you, but for the moment anyway, until something better comes along, I can idealizing myself through you, and therefore have a relationship with you, and therefore elevate you, and even maybe feel passionate about you. And there's the other dynamic, the dynamic where they don't just idealize themselves through you, which is something actually women are more prone to than men. Therefore, the saying that says that men are more prone to loving with their eyes, women are more prone to loving with their ears. And, it goes both ways. That's just a generalization. Because women do tend to like that idea that they're a little bit elevated, they're a little bit the absorbing element of all that attention, of all these compliments. And men, with exceptions, and quite a few exceptions, generally prioritize before that, although they want that also, the eyes and being visually pleased, being attracted to somebody, the physical, the sexual, things like that. And so the other dynamic where somebody is passionate about you, somebody values you, somebody loves you, is that they directly idealize you. They directly like what they're seeing in you. They love your qualities, and they love how you are as a person, not just on a physical level, but on a deeper level, your strength, your emotional stability, your intelligence. And they see the value and the prize of having somebody like you pick them them and to having somebody like you by your side, which again is at that point a position of strength. And that's the one where you want to come from, because that's the one where they're going to think 2 or 3 times about letting you go, because they see your value and they understand that somebody like you might never come along again. Versus the first case, where you may feel like you're being loved, you may feel like you're being valued, but you're effectively replaceable, because you are their channel for self-idealization, and they believe that if the need comes, they can break the habit and the addiction, and they can find a different channel for self-idealization. Now, it doesn't mean that they're right. Often they are just mistaken, and you could be looking at a dynamic where they overvalue themselves and undervalued you. And not only that, but it's a dynamic of overvaluing them and undervaluing you that you have been feeding by doing all of these things that you believed will show them how much they mean to you, how capable you are of loving, everything that you would do for them, and you thought they'll value you like that. But it has aggrandized their ego and aggrandized their ego, and now not only do they see themselves as all that, but they see you as less than. And sometimes in these situations it has gotten so bad that unless you want to spend the next 20-40 years putting up with this lack of equilibrium in the dynamic and hoping that at some point they don't decide that they've actually met somebody who is a better source of self-idealization for them, or whom they mistakenly will value greater than you, then you literally have to take this dynamic and you have to take this relationship, you have to scrumble it and throw it into the trash, and then trust that if the two of you are supposed to create something together, then it's just going to start anew. It's just going to start from scratch, because that dynamic cannot be salvaged. That dynamic is demeaning to you and is toxic to you, and any kind of dynamic that makes you betray yourself, makes you abandon yourself, whatever great excuse you have for it, how magnificent the other person is, how in love you are, eventually you will see that reflected back at you. You will see yourself devalued, betrayed, abandoned, because that is the kind of energy that you're putting out there, and that is the kind of energy that is coming back to you. So again, guys, you know that the people who know you well, they know that you're not some authoritarian tyrant, that them doing some kind of minor insignificant things and offenses isn't going to turn on your inner, ravenous monster that is going to hurt them or pursue them, that you're actually a very kind person, that you actually have excellent emotional control and emotional stability and mastery over yourself, and that they can count on that, and that it would really take a very significant trespass in order to bring the blood into your eyes and in order to get you to act this way, and that even then you will pick your battles, of course, because you are strong and kind. You are not fake nice and fake good, which is what most people in society are today. They're just people who know what they're supposed to be, and so they pretend that they're that, when in reality they're anything but. They're coming from a position of weakness, of fear, of victimhood, and strength and true love and generosity and support are simply not things that anybody can offer to you from that position. All right, just a few thoughts. Cheers, guys, and I wish you all a beautiful day. Bye.